Wonder, 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 wonder.
Friends, welcome back to part 2 of my chat with Anel.
In the beginning, I will say in the beginning, he did want to go back to church. I mentioned how I didn't really want to go back after church had resumed. And he would ask me, hey, when are we going to go to church? Like, we haven't been in so long. But other than that, he wasn't opposed to leaving. I sat down and talked to him and told him I really don't want to go back. I don't have plans to. You can go with the kids if that's what you want to do, but I just can no longer pretend. And I'm walking away, and he was like, okay, I'm doing this with you.
Oh, wow.
So we did it together from the beginning.
Wow. And did the relationship, did it change?
Yeah, I think our relationship has improved a lot because when we were attending church, I mentioned my husband was a convert. He wasn't 100% committed to it. And it was hard for him. Back then, he worked late nights and he would get home so late on Saturdays. He was bartending and would get home at like 1 a.m., 1:30, and church was early. And he had like no energy. He was tired. He just wanted Sunday was his one day off, and he did not want to spend it 3 hours at church because that's what church was back then. It was 3 hours. And I had callings in the church. So because of my leadership roles, I felt I couldn't falter it. I had to be there every Sunday. I had to, fulfill my commitments. And there was a lot of fighting. Just about every Sunday, it was me dragging him and a lot of yelling. It was funny now. It's funny now, but back then it wasn't, because I would be so stressed and we have to get to church on time and help me get the kids ready and, very flustered. And then once we sat in service, it was sit there and pretend that you're this happy family and that you love being here. But every Sunday was so stressful. It was definitely not a peaceful thing. In church, we're taught a lot about feeling the spirit, and that's what confirms to you that the church is true. But I did not feel that. Every Sunday that I went to church, I felt angry. I felt stressed. I felt I was having issues with my husband because he wanted to spend his Sunday at home with his family and not being dragged to church. But he also was trying to be supportive of me. And even though he didn't want to be there, he was there every Sunday. So it was putting a strain in our relationship, and walking away gave us so much freedom. I think in the beginning, he was just so shocked, like about the free time we had now on our hands. We were able to just chill on a Sunday. And then it didn't take very long before we started building community with other people, and not so much with Mormon folks, which then introduced different lifestyle for us. Like, I had never had alcohol until
I was going to
left
ask you, what was the first thing you did? Like, what was, okay, so you had a drinky drink. Okay.
And then getting friends or finding friends who were not on the more conservative religious side, right? And that opened my view to the fact that there are so many ways to live. There are so many worldviews. And I was aware of that, but I didn't really experience it for myself because I was so caught on living the Mormon life and the lifestyle that they encourage, that I was giving my children a very sheltered lifestyle, not exposing them to anything else. And as we began to transition away, I felt like the further away I went from the spectrum of religion, the more free I felt. My friendships felt genuine. They do feel genuine now, versus people who were forced into a friendship with me
Yeah.
because we go to church together.
Yeah.
And the people that are in my life now are all by choice. And
Yes.
same for my kids. And they saw how everything changed. You know, my husband and our relationship was better. It was no longer I was no longer that toxic wife dragging her husband to
Ah,
church forcibly.
yeah.
And it gave me, I don't know, the freedom to evolve as a person, as a
People,
mother,
yeah.
as a
Do you
wife.
do you regret those years you spent in the church? Do you feel like, gosh, I could have just lived so much more life? Do you give
Yeah,
yourself grace for those times, or how do you talk yourself through that?
I I have a little bit of both. I mean, I do have regrets of not leaving sooner because there were definitely cracks in my testimony and my faith very early on, and especially in my teen years.
Mhm.
I was kind of a rebellious Mormon girl. Um, I questioned a lot of things, and
Mhm.
that was not welcomed in the church from youth. Kids are given callings, leadership roles too,
Yeah.
for your own age group. So at 16, I was in charge of the group of girls that were 16 and 17, and they're called Laurels. And I I disagreed with the way that women are portrayed in church, the way women are viewed, the patriarchy aspect of the church.
Right.
And even from that age, I would voice my concerns for that. I would disagree with church leaders in the middle of lessons. I would question things out loud. And
Mhm.
I once was pulled into my bishop's office. A bishop is like a pastor.
Mhm.
Um, and back then, I very much was rocking the goth emo look. And so my bishop pulled me into his office and he straight up, like to my face, asked me, "So I want to know what cult you are with because this behavior is not Mormon
Wow.
like." And now I wish I could go back and tell him this
Wow.
is the only cult I'm
Wow,
with.
he had the nerve to call others cults. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he had the nerve. And
Wow.
my young women's president, which was his wife, accused me of being a Satanist. And
They don't even know.
no.
They don't even know what Satan is meant. I mean, oh,
and
wow.
And then after he talked with me, he pulled some of my friends in there. They were questioned as well. I now know that this is not really standard practice. It's not something he should have done. But one of the red flags with that is that bishops used to be able to talk to kids privately in an office, like without your parents' consent, without anyone
Oh,
else present. And so that conversation was like that for me. I was 16 years old, pulled into this men's office. My parents weren't there. I had no one to advocate for me. It was just me and this grown man accusing me and asking me very personal questions. He asked me about like my sex life, if
wow.
I was into pornography, just very very personal questions that make me really uncomfortable. And because I said, I'm not comfortable with this conversation, where is it coming from? I live a good life. I try to be a good Mormon girl.
Yeah.
But there are things I disagree with, and we are taught about free will and agency. So I'm just exercising my free will to voice how I feel, and there was no room for that in the Mormon church then. And so I was removed from my youth leadership position. My two best friends at church told me that they were asked if I was influencing them and their choices.
Yeah.
And then by the next Sunday, I was removed. It kind of turned into a whole drama thing with my parents. My mother came out to defend me. And that culminated with my parents moving away, buying a house far from there. This back then I grew up in Southwest Houston, and so we moved out of that area to Katy. And sadly, they did not walk away from church. They simply went to a different congregation to
Mm.
to get away from this one ward, which is what congregations are called,
Mm-hmm.
because the people there started talking about us and how my parents weren't doing the right thing, teaching me, and they were, but they did also allow me to voice my opinions, even as a kid.
Good for them.
And I don't know if that was hard for them as parents. I imagine it might have been to be ostracized within their community, but they thankfully stood by me, and that solidified my own critical thinking at a young age. So even as I grew in the church, I still maintained my own personal beliefs, and I tried to, I guess, obey the church commandments and
Yeah.
doctrine the best that I could within my own convictions, you know.
And did you pull your brother out, or was your brother already out before you?
No, my brother was, I think, probably around 17, 18 was when he walked away. He was struggling with things that even led him to issues with the law. And
Okay.
when it all went down, my brother ended up in jail and then detained by ICE. And when everything went down, our church community was not there for my family. They were not there for my parents. It was my actual family, my aunts and uncles, who helped my parents through it. And for him, that was heartbreaking. And that's when he walked away.
Yeah.
Because at the lowest point of his life, the church wasn't really there for him. And
They're there when everything is going good. Well, when things get rough, it's on you.
yeah, it was very much judgment. He faced a
Yeah.
lot of judgment. Once he was released and came back to church, he was kind of like ready to straighten his life out, you know. But the first Sunday he came to church, he was being judged. He was hearing comments about his bad choices. This is the reason that your life is going this way, because you're making bad choices, because you're hanging out with the wrong people, because you're not being strong in the church. And
your faith isn't
then
strong enough, that kind of thing.
yes, exactly. That's very much a phrase that's used by the LDS community.
You're not praying hard enough. You
Uh-huh.
pray more, and the prayer never gets anywhere, never goes anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
And yes, it's true. His choices led him there, but in that moment, what he needed was support, not to be judged.
Yeah.
I don't remember which of my kids I had at that time, but I had one of my kids. I'm thinking it was Summer, my second, and we were going to have their baby blessing, which is similar to like when a baby is baptized in the Catholic Church. There's no baptism, but the priesthood holders hold the baby and say a blessing, like a special prayer.
Like a christening.
Yes, it's like a christening. And so the parents are allowed to pick any priesthood holders, friends, family that can come and partake in that. And so I had invited my brother. I think he was 19 or 20 at that point. He was not very active in the church, but he's my brother, and I wanted him to be part of this. And he got up there with my husband, my dad, a few of our friends, and our bishop walked up to him and told him to go sit down, that he could not partake in this in front of the congregation. And that was shocking. And it was very embarrassing for my brother. And that was the very last time he went to church.
Wow. And so I think that also, there's a seed in your head again. There's a seed in your mind. There's something that's just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel good, doesn't feel safe or honest, right? Or authentic about the relationship. Wow.
Right.
Your story is just so impactful. You should definitely write it down. Are you still blogging?
I am.
Okay,
I am
good. Let's share your
blogging.
blog too with everyone so that people know and they can find your blog, because Anel, you have a wealth of knowledge, of experiences that I think other women would really benefit from, especially those that are on the fence. Because I hear from so many of them that are like, gosh, I just want to go that way, but I can't because, I have my family, my parents are going to like hate me, or like, but gosh, I really feel the way that you feel, but I couldn't face my family, I couldn't face them, and I would lose this and I would lose that. And you can't really tell somebody, you know, that the grass is green. It really is green. It's great. It's fantastic. But you have to
Yes.
make that decision yourself. I'm definitely not going to be the person that's gonna tell you where you need to go. That is
Right.
your journey. That's your thing. And I will hear you. I will be there for you, and I will be, you know, a sounding board. But I am not going to tell you that this place is where you need to be. You have to figure that out on your own. Are you watching the show, the Mormon show, the Hulu show, The Secret Lives of
Yes.
Wives? Are you
I
watching it?
Oh yeah,
Oh my
I
God, I'm
watched.
obsessed with that show because I am just like amazed at how these girls are so young. They do so
Mhm.
much on TikTok. They do so much social media. They're making a ton of money on brands.
Uh-huh.
And then they're raising babies. Most of them have 3 or 4 kids by now. They're like 25,
Yes.
26.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted raising 2 big ones.
Yes.
Is this indicative of these women just needing an outlet? To me, that seems like that's what it is. It's an outlet from their bubble. So they found
Yes.
something that will give them a little bit of like breathing room to dance, to sing, to do their branding deals, all that. Is that indicative of like where they are in their constriction?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. There is, within the Mormon culture, there's so little room for women to be themselves that it's no surprise to me that there's so many Mormon mommy bloggers and TikTokers and
Mm-hmm.
bloggers out there looking for that outlet, and wanting to be seen, because women within the church are not always seen. It really varies by congregation based on your bishop and his personal views. And you can go to one congregation and be treated one way, and go to a different congregation and it's completely different. That
Mm-hmm.
was definitely the case for me. And I think that when you are part of the more orthodox congregations, it leaves no room for women to just be. And so seeing these ladies wanting to be their true selves,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Within
I
the
think,
confines, right? Within the
yeah,
confines.
right.
'Cause
Some of them,
they won't leave, they won't go anywhere, but they're wanting to breathe in some way.
yeah. And some of the ladies in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives have left the church. Some of them are believing Mormons. And so it's interesting to see that dynamic of them trying to stay friends or trying to be a community while navigating some of
Mm-hmm.
their friends leaving the faith.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, they connected because of,
Yeah.
having that in
MomTok.
common.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. But then you see, as they evolve, some of them walked away, some of them drink, some of them, they are still believing Mormons, but they
Mm-hmm.
also they're unorthodox. And I have heard a lot of people say that they are not a good representation
Yeah,
of
I was
what
gonna ask you that.
Mormon women are, but I disagree with that. I
Okay, why?
disagree.
Tell me, why are they?
I think a lot of people will say that, I guess because Mormon women are encouraged to be cheerfully obedient.
Yeah,
And you see some of that, especially with Jen
yeah, Jen
wanting
is,
to,
yeah. I
I
my
think,
my like my cutie little Latina, and she's like
uh-huh.
so cute and so adorable and so fun, but oh my gosh, I just want to like knock some sense in her head sometimes.
Right. And I think that she and Zach are one of the more orthodox couples, along with Whitney and her
Yeah.
husband. And you definitely see the struggle of the patriarchy seeping into their marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And what you see happen between Zach and Jen is very real. It's very common for Mormon couples. There is a lot of that. I've seen it myself up close with friends and even family members who do not walk away from broken marriages because it's discouraged, who stay because of what others might think and the judgment they'll face, and the jealousy that Zach exhibited with the
Yeah.
Chippendale thing. It's
Mhm.
it's very much common. There's this idea that It's unspoken, but there's this idea that women are very much viewed and treated as property, and not just within the Mormon church, many religions, but
Yeah.
especially that one because it's such a high control religion. You notice some of the ladies, or maybe all of them, wearing sleeveless dresses, sleeveless tops,
Yeah,
or
very
short skirts.
sexy, very
Yeah.
sensual. The way they dance is very sensual too. It just, I'm wondering if that is the way that they're able to give themselves a little reprieve by dancing, by showing off a little bit of skin. They're gorgeous, beautiful, but the other thing I notice is they all look the same. They have got the big
Uh-huh.
curls. If they don't have the big curls, they have the extensions. They have the plastic surgery. They're beautiful Barbie type girls.
Uh-huh.
And
That's a Utah Mormon thing.
is it a Utah Mormon thing?
Yes, it
Okay,
is definitely a
okay.
Utah Mormon thing. The standard of beauty there is very unattainable, and you are, if you ever have visited Utah, especially Provo, which is where the church headquarters are in Utah, and it's a very, I don't know how to even describe it. It's these two worlds meeting where the women are living in very orthodox marriages and expected to, there's a lot of expectations, but they also seek their outlet by like a lot of the plastic surgery,
Mhm.
a lot of keeping up with the Joneses,
Right.
wanting to appear a certain way. There are a lot of people there who are in so much debt because they want to appear a certain way. And that you're supposed to be this young, successful person that's good looking while also raising children, multiple
Mhm.
children,
Yeah,
and
multiple babies.
being a good member of the church and being obedient to your husband and expected to share the gospel because that's something that's drilled into us to bring others into the fold. So it's really interesting to watch that play out in this show. And
Yeah.
I'll also say that some of the cattiness, it happens within Mormon church behind the scenes. There is a lot of gossiping and talking about each other behind their backs,
Yeah.
and a lot of cliquey activities.
Groups, little
Mhm.
little niche groups, the
Yeah,
saints
yeah.
versus the saints, the ones that left church, the ones that still go, the ones that are committed, the ones that are not committed. I mean,
Hmm.
like Taylor just struggled so much with like, a baby daddy, divorce, drinking, and then feeling shame because she sleeps with the dad. I mean, there is just like to me, that's just really sad
Uh-huh.
that they are just shamed so much for just being human beings, being sexual
Yeah.
beings, being women who have hormones, right? I mean,
Yeah.
who get horny and who like love, to have a little fun, have a good time, but you can't do it this way, but you can do it that way, but this is good,
Uh-huh.
that's not good.
It's funny you
It's
mentioned that because
Mhm.
when I left the church, I think it was maybe, I don't know, like a month before COVID shut everything down. In the LDS church, members are assigned talks. The pastor or bishop does not preach to the congregation every Sunday. Instead, the members are given two or three members are selected each Sunday. They're given a topic, and you go up and speak on it. And so, about a month before COVID and everything went down, I was asked to speak on the law of chastity, which is the
Ah,
Mormon way of talking about sexual purity.
mm,
And I got a call from someone in the bishopric and they asked me if I would do it. And I said, sure. And the guy was like so thankful. He said, I'm so glad you said yes because I've called 6 other people and everyone's telling me no, that they're not comfortable talking about this subject. And I was like, oh no, I'm good. And I went up there and just like said the word sex out loud, which is like shocker to the congregation. I
mm,
watched everyone's faces like, she cannot be saying this out loud. And I talked about how, our sexual desire is not it's not inherited bad. It's not a sin, and that we're born this way for a reason. If we truly believe that we are divine beings created by God. Why would we think that that's sinful if this is how God has made us? And there was a lot of I was watching the congregation. I watched some people shake their head in agreement and some just sinking into their seats because they were uncomfortable. And I remember looking back and seeing my bishop, and he's just nodding along like, yeah.
Were you admonished at the end, or were you supported?
No, I had so much support. It was crazy. So many women came up to me that day and said, wow, I can't believe you said that up there. And it was so refreshing to hear that. And because there's so much shaming, like you were saying,
I see that in the show.
The purity culture is so ingrained and it's so gross. That was one of the big things that made me walk away, because I started to ask myself, do I want my kids growing up thinking that this is okay? Do I want my sons thinking that it's okay to objectify women as long as you call it holy or sacred? It's okay to allow a man to treat you this way, and the whole save yourself for marriage. But it is common knowledge that a lot of Mormons do not. I'll say
a lot of the girls in the show didn't.
No, they did not. I myself did not. I was having sex as a teenager, and my parents knew, but it was just it's kind of like something that is taboo. We don't talk about it. Nobody acknowledges it out loud, but we all do it. A lot of us were doing it, and
and it's dangerous, because what you're teaching is it's number one, it's shame, but then you don't teach them to protect themselves.
Exactly.
So if they are having sex at 16, 17 years old, a lot of these girls said they were pregnant early. They were shamed for being pregnant and not being married, and not but because they're having these desires, they're not learning at the same time, how to protect themselves, or how to not go so far, right? How to maintain a sense of self, of agency, of going to third base or going to second base. Like, they don't understand that because nobody's talking to them. So like everybody said, well, information is power. It's so true, because information is power. The more information you give these girls, the more they learn, okay, this is how far I can go, this is how far I shouldn't go. And then they're not raised with that mindset in their head that they're dirty, they're nasty, they're not supposed to do it until they're married. And then get married, and then they don't like their husband. Like their husband is like poop, they don't like them. And then they're sleeping next to somebody they can't stand.
Definitely. You mentioned that being taught that it makes you dirty. There is a common practice. It is not doctrine, but it is common practice within the church to use an analogy of a chewed gum to
I've
teach
heard
the
it.
girls. And this was something my own mother, because she was a teacher for the young women, she stood there and taught it to us. And at the time, I was already sexually active, and it made me feel so much shame to sit there. I felt like she was saying it to me. And maybe she was, I don't know. But I know that if I felt that way, I wasn't the only one feeling shamed and feeling gross and unwanted. This whole analogy, the idea is that you're sitting there, the teacher will offer somebody a piece of gum, and someone takes it and asks, does anyone else want gum? And rather than giving you a new piece, they'll just take that chewed up piece from that person and offer it to you. And of course, no one wants that. And so then they compare that to, well, if you go and have sex outside of marriage, that's you. You're a chewed piece of gum. No one's going to want you. And it does so much damage to young girls.
So awful.
And the thing is, boys are not taught that. I've asked my brother, were you ever taught this? And he said, no, I've never heard of that.
No, because the boys are elevated to higher standards. They're given leadership roles, and the girls are relegated to the back, right? What are you raising your kids with now? Like, do you have a belief system, or did you stop believing completely in everything?
No. I mean, if I had to place a label on myself, I would say that I'm atheist. My husband's more agnostic. And we just decided to not raise our children inside any religion and just let them choose for themselves.
What if
My
one of them said they wanted to go back to the Mormon church? What would you say?
Well, I would say that that's their choice and
Yeah.
that I support them even though I disagree, but
Okay.
that they're my kids and I love them, and no matter what choices they make in life, I'm going to be there for them.
Yeah.
Um, but they have been invited back to church and they've said they do not have a desire to do that,
Wow. Wow.
which
Interesting. Do
uh,
your
I'm
parents do your parents invite them to church, or people around you that are family and you're like, no, leave my kids alone. Those are my kids and I
No,
teach my kids.
my parents do not. I have had to set clear boundaries with my parents
Okay.
because they do not directly say anything to my kids. It's always toward me, but they have said things like "you're making a mistake" and things
Mm-hmm,
of the
mm-hmm,
sort.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
my dad says it breaks his heart to see that his grandkids are growing up in the world, um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
outside of the religion and outside of he's like, they're missing out on the true joy of forever families. And so I've had to place those boundaries and say, hey, I respect your belief. It's no longer my belief, but all I'm asking is the same respect back.
Yeah.
And so they do sometimes invite us to like social gatherings, and I have gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have gone to some social gatherings. They have a Father's Day thing coming up next week, and my daughter was invited to perform a baile folclórico. And she's going. She's gonna dance, and we're gonna be there. We were also so my daughter does baile folclórico, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's been asked to perform a couple times. We've
Oh,
been
that's
there
sweet.
for Fiestas Patrias, and every time we go, those people who were close to us welcome us in a very warm way, and those who weren't give us the side eye, and
Yeah.
I can feel their judgment from their seat where they're at.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you watch out for the love bombing, because it's like, oh, they'll come back to church. Just wait. They're gonna
Mhm.
come back to church. Just wait. They love bomb you and all that.
Yeah, my nieces, my sister's kids, have both served missions in Peru. One of them is currently there. And before she left, she asked me, Tia, would you ever allow your kids to come to church if they wanted to? And I said, if it were their choice. If
Yeah.
they had the initiative, yes. But if it's because people are trying to reel them back in,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
so. Um,
Wow.
and and even now, I've been out officially for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just a couple days this week, a few days ago, the sister missionaries stopped by. And it's funny because when I left church, I was not living here. I am now in Alief. I
Mm.
was living in Cyprus.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's
You're
nowhere.
close to me now. I'm
Yeah.
on Dairy Ashford in West Park.
So I'm by West Park Tollway and Highway 6.
Wow. Yeah, not far. You're like
Walnut.
literally five, maybe 4 minutes from me.
Oh, we're so close.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get together sometime.
We need
Um,
to.
Yes, yes.
Anel,
But
this has been amazing.
thank
My
you.
time is running out again on
Yeah, no, I
this
understand.
damn Zoom, but I feel like we could talk forever. Like, let's do coffee, let's do lunch. Coffee! Woo! We can do
Uh-huh.
coffee
I'm
now.
a coffee drinker
Woo!
now.
We could do cocktails. Can we do cocktails?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a big wine drinker, girl. My husband studies wine, so I'm all up on the good wine now. I'm like, I told
Yum.
him, I said, I can't drink regular nasty wine anymore. I got to be bougie wine.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, he
Okay.
studies all the wine, he does all the wine classes. So I'm so spoiled on it.
Nice.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, maybe you guys can come over and we can have like a little dinner here. It would be fun. So,
Yeah.
one piece of advice for other women that are on the verge, like they're quietly questioning, just give me real quick, maybe a quick piece of advice that you would say.
I
Here's what I would say to you.
I think I would say to trust your feminine instinct because it doesn't lead you astray. And if there is something within you telling you that that's not the place for you, it's for a reason. Our nervous system can always recognize when we aren't safe, even when we try to talk ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the experience. Feeling stressed, feeling nervous, feeling upset when I would go to church, and I realized it was my own nervous system letting me know that, hey, this isn't a safe space. So I
Yeah.
would say Trust yourself.
Trust yourself, trust your intuition. I have a t-shirt that says your intuition knows her shit.
Totally. I
She
agree.
does. She totally does. I live by that. I really do. Like I have friends or I don't have friends because I feel it in my gut that I just do not need to be around somebody or don't need to be close to somebody. Like that energy hits you hard and you
Oh,
better be
yeah.
listening, right? You got to be listening because I think we're taught as young girls to like push it down, be nice, don't do that, don't talk back, and you're like, no, man, this guy is creepy. He's gross. Why are you trying to talk to somebody? So
Yes.
we need to relearn all of that. It's been such a good conversation, and I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you. No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
I
for giving me the
appreciate it.
time and trusting me with this conversation because it's something that I've been wanting to talk to you about for a long time. I'm always interested to see, how people transition, how people grow. Evolution is so important. I think it's just such a part of our process as human beings, to evolve and to grow and to find opportunities to expand, our
Yes.
thought process. I've always felt that way. I always felt the minute that I entered a library and I was able to read books, I wasn't going to be the same person anymore because those books just gave me so much and I devoured them and just felt so in tuned with like myself when I became like a hardcore avid reader, which is my husband as well. Like that's what we do. Like we want to learn and constantly be learning. And that's why the podcast for me is so important as well because it's a part of that. It's part of that evolution for me of like teaching
Yeah.
and inspiration and helping others and giving people some hope that there is something out there that you can definitely change and you can definitely grow and you could be better.
Yeah, totally. Becoming is such a good process and a journey to
Yes.
go on,
Oh,
and realizing that you're not done. You're
you're
not
not.
done being you at any point, and it's okay to change your opinions and change your views, and it's okay to admit that whatever you grew up with or what you believed at one point is no longer what you believe now,
And it's
and
okay.
it's okay.
Yeah, I love it. Anel, it's been a pleasure, girl. And then let us know where we can follow you or, go to your blog.
It's Casa de la Stage,
Okay.
casadelestage.com.
.com. Perfect. All right, Anel, thank you so much. And let's do a photo shoot one day, girl.
Yeah, let's do it. I have time now that my little ones are no longer so needy. They're older, so and I have teens that babysit.
Yes, I
So
love that. All right, babe. Love you.
thank you so
You're
much. Love you back
welcome.
and take care.
Thank
It's
you.
been
You
great.
too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wonder, 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 wonder.